Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Strickland's film breakdown. This is episode 2. I am Jack Huntley. I'm a writer for the Strickland, and I'm very excited today to have with me an icon of next day game threads. He is to game threads as Kemba Walker is to pull-up shooting. I have Ariel. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. That's a wild compliment. It's very kind of you, but I don't know if it's accurate. Thank you though.
When you introduce guests, this is what I've learned from watching a lot of basketball content over the years. You have to pump them up with over the top crazy intros.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Like even when I'm doing like podcasts and stuff, people are like very complimentary, and it kind of makes me uncomfortable to be honest. But I'm getting used to it.
I've done my job if that's the case. Yes, we were talking a little bit before recording, but how are you feeling after the Chicago game?
It was a crazy ending, you know. It was a lot of like that game had a lot of like ups and downs, kind of, to be honest. It was fun though. It was fun to watch. You know, they pulled out the win, so it's always good.
Yeah,
how about you? How are you? You hanging in there?
Yeah, I mean, I find that on the rewatch, I'm a lot more mellow. It's a lot easier, and nothing seems like as bad or as good as it seems in the moment. So, you know,
in the moment, everything is like heightened.
Yeah, it's all very important, and everything's 100 miles an hour, and everyone's getting all these takes off on Twitter. So
yeah,
it's carnage, but
it's part of the experience, though.
Yeah, I'm glad we won because the sky would be falling if we had lost that game. That would be
Twitter would be
a dark place. Crazy. A dark place.
Yeah.
So yeah, today the plan is basically I've got some clips. Less than last time, so hopefully we won't go an hour and a half this time. But I've just put together some random stuff. Mostly it's interesting sets, and then quite a few of random ISOs. So we're just going to dig into that because that seems to be the flavor of the day. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it somewhere in the middle? Like, what makes a good random ISO? Did it kill us the other night? All that sort of fun stuff. So we will get into that.
Let's do it.
Just bring up some film here.
Yeah.
Okay. You got that? Can you see that?
Yeah, everything's good.
Nice. All right. So what have we got first? First set here. So this is the start of the Philly game. Let me just go back to the beginning. Start of the Philly game. So first set. We will run this a lot to begin the games, and a lot for RJ. So it's basically just like a rub screen. You can see RJ on the wing. Always starts on the right wing, so we can get downhill going left. Kemba's just sort of walking into this little rub screen at the foul line to get RJ downhill. Bang, and he's at the basket. And he misses, but he should probably do a little bit better there. How do you feel about that set?
The thing you'll notice about like every set that is trying to get RJ the ball, or it's like made for RJ, is they're trying to get him going downhill. That's his like biggest strength. It has been since he's gotten in the league. So yeah, I think the little brush screen from Kemba could have been a little bit better. I think the fact that he kind of barely makes any like significant contact, it allows for Green to like get back in the play, and then that forces that little power dribble from RJ you see right there.
Sure, yeah.
And then he's forced to muscle through instead of rather just kind of going up a little bit more cleaner. So I think a better screen from Kemba there would change things. It's kind of Kemba's actually kind of a really good screener, especially for someone his size.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of like, a little bit out of character from him.
Yeah, you can see.
Yeah.
I mean, he's small anyway, so
yeah. I mean, any contact he does make is minimal.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, there's a lot of talk at the moment about RJ not getting any touches, and he's been sort of put in the corner of the offense, and quite literally. So I just think we still run a fair bit for him, and it's telling that out of timeouts, at the start of games, start of quarters, it's always RJ stuff. And this set has a sort of progression, which we'll see in the next game, one of the clips I've got later. But I just thought I'd chuck it in there just to sort of calm down on the RJ touches, because he does still get a fair few touches. Okay.
A lot of plays are drawn up for him.
Yeah.
More than, I think a lot of the times too, like there are plays drawn up for him, but I think because people don't see him take the shot, they don't think that it's for him. Yeah. When in fact, that's not true.
Precisely. Yeah. And that's actually an example of him sort of evolving to the point where you see it with a lot of young players. Just because it's run for you, it's, the advantage can pop somewhere else. It's your job just to seek that out.
Exactly.
Okay. So the next set we've got here, this is actually, I'll run it through from beginning to end first. So you might recognize this one. This is Spain, and we'll stack Spain. The Knicks run it quite a lot, but what's interesting about how we've been running it recently and about this one is it's actually like 2 sets put together. So basically, if we start, it starts with Rose bringing the ball up on the right, and he's going to swing it to Taj and then to Obi. And this is like a wide action, I think it's called. So Taj is then going to set a screen for Rose, and Rose can curl and come middle. And sometimes he does do that. And Burks does it a lot as well when he's initiating the action.
Yeah.
And the reason for this sort of pre-action, this wide set before we get into Spain, is because I think it sort of nails, it makes it much more likely that on this first pick, Tybal's going to get nailed. And so Rose gets downhill and it just gets everything rolling in the right direction. Drummond has no idea that set's coming as well because he's just defended 2 ball screens in 1, and Rose can get downhill.
Yeah.
Anything jump out on you on this one?
Yeah, another aspect to what you brought up, like in the beginning of the set, it's also a good way to kind of disguise the Spain pick and roll. You kind of don't want to give away your hand too early. But yeah, the Spain pick and roll is one of like my favorite plays. It's just really beautiful. I want to point out, you mentioned the Todd screen, but Burks absolutely crushes Drummond here.
I know.
That's great. Yeah, like Drummond did not see it coming.
Yeah.
And D-Rose, he snakes the pick and roll too, so it kind of like angles everything kind of smoothly.
Yeah.
And then it ends up with Rose being forced to finish over Korkmaz, who's not a rim protector by any means.
Yeah.
And Rose is gonna finish that 10 out of 10 times. So yeah, it's a really, I love this. I love this main pick and roll. Big fan of it.
And it's a good point because it's so prevalent now in the NBA. Like teams know. So if you don't do it, a little bit of dummy action beforehand, then everyone's communicating, everyone knows what's happening. Whereas here, Tybal gets nailed with the first pick, like you say. Drummond gets nailed with the second pick, and Korkmaz is toast to the rim. He's got no chance against Rose. And then even if they do, manage to navigate it a little bit better than they do here, as we'll see. I mean, I'll roll this on, and we've got another clip of them running it again on the next one. There's really no good options, even when it's run like semi badly. They're kind of in trouble. So same thing. We've got Rose has started over here on the right. He's reversed it to Obi. Mitch has got him on a screen, and he's going to rescreen into Spain. And you can see Burks is already ploughing over. Now this time they defend it a bit differently, and I'll roll it on. We get Obi in the corner. But how do you feel about Burks here?
Interesting, so why this one's a little more interesting is because of the way they defend it. This time Tobias drops. He drops to try to tag Mitch, I believe.
Yeah.
And I don't think Tobias recognized it was a Spain, because I think if he did, he wouldn't have dropped so low. But the fact that he does drop this low opens up the corner for Obi, and Derrick Rose just makes a great read and finds it.
Yeah.
He misses the shot, unfortunately, but it's still great offense. That's the kind of looks you're trying to generate when you run this Spain. So yeah, I think this is a mistake from Tobias. Drummond also gets caught here as well. Drummond's defensive awareness isn't the greatest, and I think you're kind of seeing it on these main pick and rolls. But yeah.
It's interesting because I think Niang actually does quite a good job. I mean, Burks trucks him. So basically, Niang tries to get in front of Burks to stop him setting a pick on Drummond, but Burks just moves him all the way across the floor into Rose. And then you've got 3 guys on the ball. Whereas if they're going to switch that, so if the small and the 2 smalls switch, then Niang should be on Rose and Tybal should drop back so that Tobias can get back out to Obi in the corner. But I mean, you have to decide all of that in a split second. So it's pretty much a nightmare to guard.
Another thing is it shows Mitch's roll gravity too, because exactly. I mean, if it's someone else, Tobias might not feel as though he has to drop, but Mitch is that lob threat, so you have to commit to that.
Yeah, because that's 2 points. Obi misses, that's a lesser evil. If Tobias gives up the dunk here, then I'm sure that Doc Rivers is going to be fuming. But exactly. Obi is ready as always in the corner. He knows what's going on.
His hands are always up.
They are. All right, so what have we got next? Let's have a little look. Oh, yeah, so end of the quarter, we've got a little ghost screen and Burks flares out. Rose gets a nice lane to the rim. You see a lot of teams running this. we've started to do it, and it's usually Rose because he's usually in at the end of quarters. But it's a really interesting play, and a lot of teams do it. How do you feel about the that sort of ghost flare action?
I like the go screen. I think it kind of plays on the defense. You're trying to get them to kind of miscommunicate.
Yeah.
I think you're trying to get Korkmaz to yell out to Thibault like, "Oh, there's a screen coming."
Yeah.
And he kind of when you hear that there's a screen coming, you kind of like prepare yourself to get hit.
Exactly.
And then instead, Derrick Rose just kind of just blows by instead. And then now Thibault is a step behind, and D Rose gets that open lane to the basket. So like at first glance, it may seem like, what's the point of this? But you're just trying to get the defense to kind of, make a mistake.
It's like a moment of chaos that's created here because, exactly. I mean, I think Thibault's probably shading Rose left as well to his weaker hand. But at this point here, he opens up just a little bit, and it's just, there's always a lane to attack behind that ghost screen, especially when he's not exactly a great defender. Korkmaz is not, he's not Draymond Green or anyone. So he just doesn't know, he's nowhere. And even if, Draymond steps up, then you've got a little dump off to Taj, or you've got Burks on the wing. It's just like a really simple but kind of dynamic play that is perfectly suited to Rose. I just thought that was a nice little set that we run a fair bit more. What have we got? So this, I didn't include too much defense in this this selection of clips, but I was interested to get your take on this one.
So here Niang sets like a back screen for Korkmaz. Yeah. And what I think happens here is it's a little bit of miscommunication, and it's also kind of poor positioning from Obi.
Yeah.
So what I think happens here is that Obi expects Korkmaz to just kind of like clear out to the corner.
Yeah.
So he's kind of playing up on Niang because he's expecting Niang to come get the ball. But I don't know if it was a set play or if Korkmaz just makes a great read. Yeah. And he just dashes to the paint instead, and then IQ's called up on the screen, so there's nothing he can really do. But you can tell that it's kind of Obi's mistake, because when Korkmaz gets the dunk, you can see Obi kind of just run to the paint like, oh damn, I kind of screwed up. So yeah. I mean, I think it's just a kind of poor positioning, a little bit of miscommunication. I think it's more so on Obi than it is IQ though.
I agree. I was interested because it looks like such a fumble between the two young guys, but I think Obi has to let IQ through here. And that's what IQ is expecting. He's like, he basically just runs into him like, why are you here? I mean, and maybe by this point he could have reacted a little bit earlier and try and cut it off back door, but didn't look good. Tibbs was not happy there. You can see his arms go up over here in the corner.
Is Tibbs ever happy though? That's
not
the question.
Good. All right, so I just included that little fumble in there because Obi's off-ball defense isn't interesting. He's going to need that. If he gets on the floor, he can't be making mistakes like this. He's going to get pulled real quick. All right, so that's the Philly game. Only a few clips from there, just a few sets. But now we're going into the Chicago game, and again, this is the first possession of the game. And if you see, this is basically the progression to that little rub set with Kemba's screen at the foul line here. So same thing has happened. Can I go back a little bit more? Maybe that'll make it a bit clearer. We'll just watch this one more time because it's so fun. All right. No, I can't pause it. Okay. So basically, RJ's made his little cut. There's nothing there. And so Fournier, who had the ball on the wing, has reversed it to Mitch. He's reversed it again. And now RJ, down in the post, is going to set a back screen for Fournier. And it's just a nice little, this is the other side of that play. And I think it's actually probably, well, maybe not a better option, but it's perfect for RJ. I mean, this is where you want him, really. Gets that screen from Mitch. There's no help in the corner, so everyone has to come across, which they don't, and we just get an easy lob to Mitch.
Yeah, so here, I mean, like I mentioned before, they're always trying to get RJ going downhill. So they just run a kind of basic pick and roll, nothing special. But what I think stands out here is that they're putting two poor defenders, pick and roll defenders.
Yeah.
And DeRozan and Vucevic in the action.
Yeah.
So now RJ is allowed to just, come off the screen, and then Mitch isn't the greatest screen setter, but DeRozan also isn't the greatest screen navigator. So DeRozan is out of the play basically immediately, and then now Vucevic has to step up. Yeah. Patrick Williams, this is on Patrick Williams. He doesn't tag the roller. He doesn't provide any help. He just kind of ball watches. And I mean, you give Mitch a runway, he's gonna throw it home. So yeah, this is just bad Bulls defense here.
100%. And it's a really nice play. You get the best out of Mitch, you get the best out of RJ going left downhill, and you're surrounded by shooting. So even if they take this away, like you say, Patrick Williams should be here bumping and getting in front of Mitch. Then you've got Randall in the corner, swing. It's just, this pick and roll plus spacing is pretty hard to guard.
Yep.
All right, lovely. So what have we got next? Let's see. So yeah, this is like one of the first Randall ISOs of the game. And the next bunch of clips are basically going to be how does Randall play out of an ISO and how do the other Knicks play out of it as well. Because I think it's not just Randall ISOs, it's how Randall is playing out of them and then what the other guys are doing. That's going to be deciding whether the Randall ISO offense is good or bad or what the ceiling is. So what are we seeing here, Ariel?
So yeah, we see a ton of Julius post-ups throughout a game. This one is interesting because LaVine starts coming over to double and he's only one pass away.
Yeah.
But Julius kind of reads it and he immediately rifles a pass to Fournier. I don't really think Fournier was kind of expecting the pass, or he would have been probably able to shoot this off the catch.
Yeah.
The pass could have also been a little bit better placed, but I just think Fournier wasn't ready. So instead, Fournier decides to attack immediately, and he ends up drawing the foul. But I think what's interesting is that Julius is a little bit higher up. If you can see, he's kind of closer to the 3-point line than the mid post area.
Yeah.
And that makes it so that LaVine has less ground to cover. Because if you play the clip a little bit, LaVine is able to recover back and defend the drive.
Yeah.
So if Julius is a little bit lower or farther into the corner, that's harder for LaVine to get back. And then I think that's Patrick Williams who's guarding Kemba. Yeah. He's forced to rotate, and now the Bulls are scrambling. Yeah, so definitely. I think kind of where Julius is here is kind of this is kind of bad spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's right on the 3-point line. I think the idea probably is that he's going to back him down.
Yeah.
And you're right that the pass is a little bit off, but if he didn't do that, then he wouldn't have been able to put that much sauce on it and turn around.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that. He was really into that pass.
He was feeling himself on that.
But I think this is good Julius in terms of his intent when he's in these ISOs, because when he's looking to pass, he throws some absolute dimes in this game. But that was just real early on. Fournier gets an advantage and he gets fouled. This next one, what we got coming up? So, same thing. Julius going to back down a little bit. As soon as that help comes, he's rifled it. And like you say, Fournier's ready this time. He's ready in the shot pocket. That's a great look.
You live with that every time if you're the Knicks. Here, the Bulls kind of decide to load up on him. You can see Vooch kind of, creeping over as well. That also forces, LaVine to drop to Mitch. And now RJ is being defended by, I think that's Javonte Green. Yeah. Green is forced to cover Kemba and RJ.
Yeah.
What you see the Knicks do all the time when in this exact situation where one guy is guarding two on the weak side, like Javonte Green is.
Yeah.
Is RJ, he used to be Alfred last year, but RJ is now the kind of designated cut guy. Yeah. Sorry for mentioning his name, by the way. RJ is the designated cut guy. And what that does is it forces Green to make a decision. It's I either have to take this cut or I have to stick with Kemba.
Yeah.
So if you play it just a little bit more, I think he decides to take the cut. And now Fournier also has the swing to Kemba here as well. So
and then that's wide open there. I mean, I don't begrudge him taking that shot. That's a great look.
Neither.
But you're right. And RJ really is the guy in this game that he was kind of, you can see it's in the game plan. When Randall's ISOing and they load up to the ball, like you say, Vooch comes over and that triggers the domino rotations, RJ is cutting that help in half almost every time. And if he's not cutting, then he's going to be setting a screen for someone else. But that's that. He's really attentive to that. And it's almost every possession we'll see as we go on.
Yeah, RJ was really good off the ball in this game.
Yeah, and it's those little things. He doesn't always get noticed.
Yeah.
What we got coming up. So another ISO. RJ enters it, and then if you see it here, I mean, this is just incredible by Randall because Kemba's over here. That's an insane pass to make, and I really like it when he makes these reads without taking a dribble. That's sort of LeBronian in that sort of range there.
Yeah.
But again, Kemba's wide open, knocks it down. Anything in particular jumping out here?
you just mentioned that. I think a couple of the clips we're gonna look at, Julius kind of just catches it and he just turns and reads and just kind of you're just reading the defense like what's going on.
Yeah.
And you mentioned how like LeBronian this passes, the timing of it is like impeccable. Like it's right when RJ is clearing towards the corner. Yeah. And RJ sets a screen here. I think it's an illegal one, but they didn't call it. So
yeah,
he kind of just crushes DeRozan, who wasn't expecting it at all.
Was this a screen or was this just him cutting? I mean, he almost gets his head taken off by the ball.
Yeah, I think DeRozan kind of crashes into him. Yeah. Either way, I don't know if Julius intended to time it perfectly like that, but just like the timing of it is like absolutely perfect. It's just really gorgeous to watch.
It's a beautiful pass, and again, RJ's mixing up the defense there, whether he's intended it or not. Yeah. You know, he was in the perfect place, and that's not even the best pass Julius makes in the game. Oh, it's not, so I think the next one might be my favorite. So we get the switch on a pick and roll. They're probably happy with that switch. I mean, we saw it at the end of the game how good Caruso and Ball are guarding mismatches. But this pass here is just obscene. Oh, absolutely
such a tight window. It's a tight window.
The fact that he can make that, you know, is brilliant. What's jumping out here? Anything in particular, or just
again, he just turns and reads the defense. Not a single dribble. He's just looking. What stands out to me here is kind of more so the Bulls defense. I don't understand why LaVine. So Taj is kind of, if you just look at Taj, he's just clearing out to the dunker spot. He's not even like cutting hard or diving hard. He's just trying to create space for Julius. Yeah. And LaVine kind of is. You can see him right now. He's just standing in the paint, which is kind of creating the lane. Yeah. But when Taj rolls through, LaVine takes like another step, and that creates the passing lane here. Yeah. You can see LaVine kind of like try to tag Taj for some reason. And it's a tight window. Like, that's not an easy pass to make whatsoever. It's really pretty.
You're right, though, because these two, I mean, you're looking at DeRozan and LaVine. They are not the best, you know, off-ball players. And Vooch sort of goes to double and then retreats. So he's back with Taj. LaVine should be on his bike and out to Fournier now, but he doesn't have the time. And I think RJ is sort of creeping in maybe to set like a flare here or maybe cut that help or something. You know, every single one of these plays, RJ's like looking, seeing where he can creep in and create an advantage. Lovely, knocks it down. All right. So this one, I'll run it through once first. So this is straight out halftime. Lovely little bit of action. This is kind of like all the others are sort of off the cuff, not designed plays, really just working out of principles. But then this Julius ISO, you get, so Fournier is going to set a little screen for RJ here, who probably is going to curl, or that's what the defense thinks he's going to do. He's just going to curl to the rim and look for this little dump off, because Vooch, as you can see, is already over on Julius. But then RJ sets the screen, Mitch comes in, sets a little stagger, and it's like springs Fournier free for the wide open look.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of kind of like it's not an elevator screen, but the way Mitch and RJ kind of set the screen, it makes it seem like it. Yeah. But yeah, like you mentioned it too, the key to me to this play is, if you rewind a little bit, is the screen that RJ and Fournier set for each other here. Right. So the little like screen exchange here, it kind of just watch what it does to LaVine. LaVine drops a little bit because I think, as you mentioned, he's expecting the little curl. And then right here, he's just caught off guard because he's not expecting Fournier to just dash to the open spot on the wing. Yeah, he's gone. So I think the Knicks did a good job of like exploiting the Bulls' weaker defenders, especially off the ball. Yeah. But this play kind of reminds me of something like you would see with like Draymond Green in the post, where like it's a post up, but it's not looking for. You're not asking the guy in the post to score. It's just you're giving him a sort of passing set play. So it's nice to see the Knicks run something like this.
And that can be the virtue. It doesn't have to be complicated. As soon as Randall catches the ball, it's a mismatch. And the defense know it. So, you know, everyone's looking at him. You're running these sort of like decoy actions with a couple of layers in there. Because depending on how that screen is defended, RJ can just cut to the rim and he might have a layup. But, you know, this is the benefit of having a guy who has the ISO gravity of Randall. It's just can mix it up a little bit. And I think more and more through these games, you're seeing these little plays that happen. Again here. Oh, so this is Randall dribbling into a little two-man game with Fournier. Doesn't hand it off. Fournier sets the screen. And then again, like you said, LaVine, he's not the best. Get a little kick out to Kemba. wide open. I mean, a lot of Kemba's looks in this game were just a little bit of movement, and then he's going to be wide open.
Exactly. So here they kind of run like an inverted pick and roll where Fournier is the one setting the screen.
Yeah.
And that puts a lot of pressure on the defense because it's like you don't want to put a guy like Levine on Randall, and then you also don't want to leave Fournier because the shooter he is. So the Bulls actually do a kind of decent job of defending that initial action.
Yeah.
But it still accomplishes the goal of getting Julius downhill, and Vooch is forced to step over. Lonzo has to step over and help on Mitch.
Yeah.
And then Kemba does a good job of rotating into open space from the corner to the wing, because that's what creates the angle here. If Kemba doesn't move and he stays in the corner, Lonzo's going to steal that pass. And now Kemba has the open look because he rotated up. You can see Lonzo playing the pass for the corner too. Yeah, he doesn't realize Kemba's on the wing.
He doesn't know. It's a great. So RJ cuts the help basically. He cuts in here, drags in DeRozan, and then Kemba sees that and lifts, and that creates a nice little passing window for Randall again.
Yeah, Kemba was hot, so
yeah, I mean exactly, and they were looking for him, and that little cut from RJ, it just messes everything up. And then it's great play because Kemba's really attentive off ball as well. You probably haven't seen it too much in his career because he had to do everything everywhere he was. But, early going, he's an excellent spot-up shooter. And you can see it was the same with Reggie Bullock last year. As soon as guys start knocking down shots, Randall is going to find you. So, nice little play.
You mentioned the cut from RJ too. What else it accomplished is that DeMar DeRozan isn't able to rotate over to Kemba because he's occupied with the cut. So
exactly. He's got some cheeky little screens in there, RJ. He's just like the perfect time getting the exact tagger that would be making the rotation. It's great stuff. All right. So what we got here? Okay, so this is like a little bit of a different set. Not another Randall ISO. So basically what we've got here is it's going to be a ram action. So Mitch comes down, but he actually doesn't set the screen for Randall. He's going to fill straight to the corner. And then it's going to be Fournier setting a down screen for Randall, who's going to come up and set a ball screen. And the goal of this is to basically get a bit of separation from Randall's man and when Randall, at the point when he sets the screen. So we'll play it on a little bit here. Screen there. And he's a little bit behind the play. So Kemba comes off and he's got loads of daylight. Now, the other thing that's going on is Mitch is then setting a little flare screen here for Fournier to come off. So you've got the ram action and then you've got this sort of exit action here. And he's wide open. If Kemba doesn't shoot that, then Fournier is going to be there as well.
Yeah.
How do you like this play?
It's interesting. Yeah. So what's interesting about this one is that there are multiple options, and you kind of see them simultaneously happening. So you mentioned, Mitch sets that exit screen for Fournier. They used to do that with Bullock a lot. Interestingly enough, in the preseason, they ran it for Julius. I don't think they've done it in the regular season for him yet, but it's besides the point. Julius comes up to set the screen for Kemba, which I think is interesting because I've been clamoring for more Kemba Randall pick and rolls. I don't know if people forget, but Julius was an elite roller, especially like in New Orleans. It's probably his best skill before he came to the Knicks.
Yeah.
Getting Randall any action where he can roll, I'm a big fan of. But Kemba's going to come off the screen here. And I think the Bulls want to switch this because I think they're fine with Lonzo and Randall, as we saw towards the end of the game. They were fine with that matchup. But I think Green here is far too low.
Yeah.
That's too much space for Kemba. And Kemba was hot as well. So I don't understand why he wasn't higher up. But either way, it's just good recognition from Kemba. And he's just ready to pull as soon as he gets that space.
Well, I think the reason he's not higher up is because if that screen is good, so basically you want your bigs sprinting into the screen so they can get a bit of separation and their defender's not attached to them beforehand. And when you set this little ram action, that creates that little bit of daylight. So even if he wants to be aggressive and switch that, he's not really in position to do it because you have to be, if you're going to switch, you have to be right up on Kemba. So he's sort of forced into a drop. And like you say, Lonzo wants to switch out, but then he has to leave Randall. When you made that point about Randall being the exit guy, that's really important as well, because usually it is Randall either coming down and setting a screen for Mitch, who obviously is used to setting ball screens up here, and then Randall can come out, and it's usually the corner guy who actually steps in, and then Randall comes off that screen there. So there's all sorts of different variations that they can run because all these guys are sort of interchangeable. But it's a nice little set. And again, you have like so many options off it. You could have passed to Fournier. If he hits Randall here, then DeRozan's in big trouble because everyone's occupied with this action over here. Then you got RJ over in the corner. This is the kind of thing where instead of just doing like a straight pick and roll 1-4, no fluff action at all, it's a lot harder to guard. It just occupies the defense, especially when they're not the best off-ball defenders.
Exactly. Yeah. You want to put the pressure on the defense. You want to kind of put the defense in a position where they can make mistakes and like make miscommunications, like Green here and Lonzo, whoever's fault it was. Either way, you just kind of want to put the defense in that kind of position where, a slip up can happen.
Absolutely.
However small.
Absolutely. So again, like you say, Kemba's absolutely flaming at this point in time. Randall doesn't even take a dribble, just gets a little ISO. The help comes. And again, Fournier's sprinting up here already on the pass to set this little flare. Randall passes pretty early, so he's caught off guard, but he manages to make a little bit of contact, and then it sort of delays the closeout a bit, so he has to overcompensate, and then he fouls him.
Yeah, so what Knicks do a lot for Julius is they'll ISO him like sort of middle of the floor. And it's similar to what the Mavericks used to do with Dirk. So what the point of that is just it's harder to send a double team or help when the guy's in the middle of the floor because he can see everything. It's all right in front of him. And, here Kemba spaces is kind of important to know how far he is. He's at the hash mark essentially. And what that does is it's more ground for the defender to cover. And then when Fournier sets that little brush screen, he's scrambling now because he's like, damn, I got to make up this ground. And he contests, but he's out of control. And that leads to that foul. And then I think Kemba makes 2 out of 3 free throws. Yeah. But it's so small, but there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah, exactly. It's the details. And I mean, Randall, again, he's looking for that. He's really good. We saw it in the first half. So he's really good at sort of reading that backline help, reading the guys creeping over because everyone's looking at him. As soon as he gets the ball, and you can see it here on this next clip, he's the focus. And so he's just got to read that help and see where it comes from. Let's see what happens in this one. Can't quite remember. Okay, yeah. So again, got Randall on the ISO here. He's got Caruso. Vooch is already shading over. So's Levine. And when he gets deeper, the double comes. Levine has to go over to Fournier because that's one pass away. RJ sees that immediately, cuts the help again. And then Rose's man has to pick him up and just leaves Rose wide open.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, that cut from RJ, that's kind of whenever there's one playing 2 on that weak side.
Yeah.
I think it's Ayo here. He's forced to take the cut. That creates the passing lane for Rose.
Yeah.
You'll see it a lot. Just look out for it. You'll probably see it in the Pelicans game. Happens all the time, especially if they're doubling. You'll see that cut. It's kind of smart. I love that they do that.
Nice play. Yeah, that Pelicans game, I don't think they have anyone that can even pretend to guard around a one-on-one. So
yeah, it's going to be tough.
That's going to be interesting. Okay, we've got another one here. So this is getting down. We're in the fourth quarter. Again, he's gone for the ISO. He's spun away from Caruso on the baseline, but it's just interesting. RJ is setting this little back screen again on Levine's man to free up Kemba. So he knows. He ends up taking the shot and nailing it, but there are options on all these plays, and there are options because of the activity of the guys off the ball. He probably has Mitch there as well if he wants him.
Yeah. Vooch was a little late to come over and help.
Yeah.
I think he should have been there a little sooner. I think the plan was as soon as Julius goes baseline to come over and double.
Yeah.
But because Julius doesn't drive, he just turns and takes the turnaround. Yeah. Vooch kind of gets caught in between. So even if Julius misses this, Mitch is in good position for the offensive rebound as well.
Exactly, yeah. Plenty of options. And then, again, same thing, exactly the same. He faces up this time. This was beautiful, and he's done this a couple of times this season. There was one in the Philly game. So the help comes. He's in trouble. And he does this little step-through move and finds Mitch for the dunk. This footwork, I don't know what you think. He didn't have this level of footwork last season.
I don't feel like he did either. Or maybe it's just more noticeable. I don't know. But it's been, like you mentioned, he had an almost identical play against the Sixers. Literally looked just like this.
And that was Embiid. That wasn't Vucevic.
Yeah, exactly. He's a better defender. But yeah, here's sort of similar as a play before where Vooch comes to double as soon as he gets to the baseline.
Yeah.
the key here is that Levine, again, they're putting Levine in positions where he has to make a decision. And he kind of comes over to help Mitch. But once he sees Randall pick up the dribble, he runs back out to RJ.
Yeah.
And then once Julius pivots through, shows off that footwork, Mitch has the wide open dunk.
So. Exactly. And then again, I only just noticed it, but Fournier cut as well. So he cut from one side of the floor to the other, and that just dragged Caruso a bit. This cut here occupies Caruso, so he can't dig down. DeRozan goes to him as well, so then Kemba's wide open at the top. I mean,
there's a miscommunication up top too. Yep.
Yeah, there's all sorts going on in that play. That's going to be in the Chicago film study, I'm sure. Another great play. I mean, this is in the fourth quarter, so basically the whole game, all these Randall ISOs, we've got great stuff out of them. Even this is before the dreaded last 3 minutes. We're just coming into it now. ISO at the nail, backs him down. Barrett again has come up from the corner this time to set a back screen on Caruso. So Walker's here again, doesn't use it, but he gets the foul. Vooch doesn't help at all at any point, which is interesting.
Yeah, so RJ, he catches Caruso off guard. Caruso never sees the screen coming. He's oblivious to it.
Yeah.
Luckily for Caruso though, it doesn't end up mattering necessarily because Julius goes for the drive. But yeah, you see the footwork again. Julius fakes and then he kind of pivots through DeRozan and Lonzo.
Yeah.
And he draws the foul. So it's just Julius being Julius. Like a lot of these post ups, like it's just Julius making great plays, like out of nothing. Like, and I know people get frustrated with the ISOs and stuff, but we just pulled up like 8, 9, 10 clips of Julius in ISOs and like making the Bulls defense look, just horrendous. So,
multiple options on all these plays.
Yeah. Giving Julius the ball is never a bad decision, is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. And I mean, that's the last clip we've got, but it's just so I don't think it's like a Julius Randle ISO just in and of itself is either good or bad, but it matters when he's looking for the pass, and it matters when the rest of the Knicks, the off-ball movement, those little cut in the helping half or these back screens, they make that initial read to pass a lot easier. And so when people talk about there's too much ISO, it's really stagnant, it can be, but it's not necessarily. And I think maybe on those last possessions at the end of the Chicago game, there wasn't that movement that we saw for the previous 45 minutes. And that's when we can get into trouble, when he ends up taking these really tough shots. But for the most part, this season, Randall in ISO has been phenomenal. And this is without him even hitting any shots. He's not even been shooting that well. So
one thing I'll add is that I don't have a problem with Julius ISOs. When I do have a problem with Julius ISOs, is more so when there aren't any actions beforehand to try to get the defense moving and, try to force that kind of miscommunication. Yeah. I think what happened in the last kind of 3 minutes or so of that Bulls game is that they kind of just went straight Julius ISO, where they didn't run any of that off-ball action we just saw. It was more so just Julius, come get the ball. Okay, now make a play. And then now the defense is just looking at Julius, and it's easier for them to react when there isn't anything else going on around the ball. So those are the kind of stagnant Julius ISOs that I think people have a problem with. But the ones we just saw are like, that's good offense because everybody's playing off Julius and Julius is playing off everybody else. This is great synergy on offense.
Yeah, we've had way more of the latter than of the stagnant ones, I think, this season. It's just that they've come at sort of crunch moments in conjunction with other things that have like shined a spotlight on it. Like the defense in the Chicago game was awful. You get 1 or 2 stops and we're not even talking about the last few possessions for the Knicks.
The defense was a bigger issue for what it's worth. It was the fouling. It was bad all around on defense.
Yeah, wasn't great. But yeah, we got the Pelicans next. So what do you think of is going to be the key sort of strategic battleground in that game? Anything to focus on you'll be looking at?
I'll be watching for the Valanciunas Mitchell Robinson matchup. Just because I want to see how Mitch's added weight kind of goes up against another bigger dude. Yeah. We saw it against Embiid, but they kind of did double a lot. But Mitch still held his own for what it's worth. So I'm looking out for that matchup. RJ is gonna get to go up against Brandon Ingram most likely. I'm assuming that's the matchup.
He's another man to put in jail.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'll be looking out for that. Other than that, who's gonna guard Julius? That's the question. You mentioned it earlier. So yeah, that's kind of the basic things I'm looking out for.
For sure. And I think, Valanciunas he's not a bad team defender, but he's going to be in a drop. So it's going to be, Kemba's going to be able to eat again, you'd imagine. Yeah, especially if, I think they're starting Devontae Graham at the moment, who, he's really small. I don't think he's going to be able to bother Kemba like a Caruso or a Ball did, getting over those screens. And there should be quite a few sort of pull-up opportunities there. And that just opens up everything else.
Yeah, I'm expecting the Knicks offense to look pretty good against that Pelicans defense.
That Pelicans defense, I think they're like, I don't know, 28th, 29th in D.
They're bottom half.
They're not doing very well.
They don't have the personnel.
So we've just set it up. So the Pelicans are probably going to win by 30.
Exactly, and we're just gonna look dumb. So,
but if that happens, then disregard. It's not our fault. We'll break it down next week. But thank you for coming on, mate. That was good fun. It's always good to pick your brain. And
thank you for having me, man.
I'll look forward to your next day, Fred. Again, you've got to go easy on the guy. It takes a long time to do these threads. So if they're not there like at 9:01 in the morning the next day, then just a bit of patience.
I promise I'll get them up. Well,
there you go. All right, man. Well, thank you for coming on. And enjoy the game. I'll see you soon.
You too, man.
Cheers, buddy.